it working? Good afternoon. I'm Cathy Demeroto, the Director of Maryland Hunger Solutions, and we're here today with Delegate Mary Washington of Baltimore City, and she's participating in the Maryland Hunger Solutions Food Stamp Challenge. It's January 27th, which is day 4 of the challenge, and we're here to see how the challenge is working for Delegate Washington.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good.
Right.
I'm just curious why you decided to take the challenge.
Well, first of all, thanks for contacting me. And, this is my first year as a delegate. And so I'm really interested in learning everything that the advocates have to offer and to take advantage of whatever experiences that are being offered. So first of all, so that I know that these are important issues around hunger, and that as legislators, we help to manage the budget and the programs that serve the people who are most in need. So I thought if you thought it was important enough, your organization thought it was important enough for us to do it, that I would give it a try.
Great.
I had to think a lot about it because I know there's no way in my situation to fully appreciate what it is to live on $30 and some change every week. But I thought it was a good reminder to get closer to what those realities are.
Great. Well, we really appreciate your being part of this process. What has been your most interesting experience so far?
Well, I went shopping at the Giant. So this is not an advertisement for Giant, but it's my neighborhood grocery store. And I thought, well, why don't I try to shop pretend that I didn't have a car, and where would I need to shop? And so, fortunately we do have a grocery store, but then I also took it farther and thought, well, what if I just shopped from the WIC approved list? And the biggest thing I noticed was that just the salt content, I have to say, was just very startling. Just starting to think about how do you eat healthy, on that money. But I also just realized a lot of the processed foods were very, again, it's very salty. The other interesting, experiences in trying to talk about this with my colleagues and just with other people. So many people thought it was this really big thing. And I actually said to someone, I'm going to work off feeding myself on $30. And the person was like, wow, $30 a day? I was like, no, $30 a week. So so for some folks, just even the notion that, that you had to spend $30 for an entire week was something. So it's provided me some great opportunities to have some really good conversations.
And that's great, because that's really what the intent was when we decided to do that.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. And what are you doing differently as far as the types of meals you're eating? Or are you eating at different times of days? Are you cooking differently?
Yeah. Well, so you can't go out to eat. So that's off the table, I am aware that people who do use fast food, this gets back into like high fat, high salt. So if you're going to do one of the fast food places and spend on $1 meal or something like that, the health consequences of that, it's off. So so I'm packing my lunch, and I'm thinking more about it. I realize I have to think a lot more about what I eat. Whereas if you have access to just purchase whatever you want, that's really not an issue. I have to actually plan. And honestly, I'm actually running out because I ate sort of a little more than what I'm typically. So tomorrow's going to be pretty tough. But on the serious side, connecting that probably does in fact happen. That you or your children need a little more in a particular day, and if by the end of the week or the month you're out of your food stamps, you're out of your food stamps. So that's a really good reminder. And I'm very aware that when it comes to the end of the week, I do in fact have that option to go and buy something else. So I know that I won't ever have the real psychological feeling associated with not being able to feed yourself on your own or someone else. But it is a good reminder. And so, as an elected official, when people like Hunger Solutions or other organizations are coming to advocate for it, I'll be able to tell the story in a way not from direct experience now, but just being reminded of it. But in fact, growing up with five brothers and sisters, there was a period where my parents were unemployed. My mom's a nurse and my dad's a respiratory therapist, and we had a pretty middle class lifestyle. But then they had both of their hospitals closed at around the same time. So we did have a period where they were very underemployed, and we did use food stamps and actually the food, the processed cheese and the dried milk and all of that. So, that was 40 years ago. And so the memories is dim around that. But the idea that any one of us at any time, particularly in this economy, could be in a position where we're not able to make the kind of food choices that we're accustomed to, I think is something very important for us to remember.
Absolutely, and with more than 11% of the population in Maryland currently participating in the food supplement program.
Right.
1 in 10 people that you see.
Yes, and many more qualify who don't go, and we don't have the money for it right now. And
absolutely.
So it's an important thing.
And particularly seniors.
Yes.
Only about a third of the eligible population actually participate in the program, so we're really going to do a push to get more seniors enrolled. That's going to be a priority for us.
Okay. Yeah.
So just lastly, just as a Maryland State legislator, do you have one message you would want to give away about this experience, or one thing you learned that you would want to share with your colleagues or the public?
One thing. I guess I've learned a lot, but again, I think sometimes when people are poor, they don't have resources, others tend to judge them and say, they haven't made good choices, or if they start, particularly around food, I hear a lot of judgment. If people are poor and they're obese, or then they're like, well, how could they possibly be overweight if they don't have money? But again, being mindful of the food deserts that we have in Baltimore City and other places, that they don't have direct access to healthy food, that we have to make sure that more of our farmers markets are open and make it easy for people to use their food assistance programs. And I think just like anything, a self-imposed period of sort of sacrifice or voluntary sacrifice is a good reminder that people are doing it every day involuntarily. And again, we shouldn't judge, but always continue to be willing to be supportive of it.
Great. Well, thank
you.
But
one more thing is that I became very, very mindful of all the resources I had accessible to me, even though, if I ran out of that $30, being mindful that there were other options, and to try to imagine if you didn't have any options, that's something that is a humbling thing to think about.
Great. Well, thank you. We're really glad you participated.
Alrighty. Yeah, so am I.